Okay. Golly. Oh, oh my gosh. Yo, how long have I been off? Like, it's only been a week. Come on now. Like, my stuff is not working now. All right. So now I can hear myself in the playback. Everything's working live on the stream. See, you know, I had OBS, so I'm using OBS right now. That's what I'm using right now for my whole stream setup. There's two things that happen with my OBS before I get into this topic of like the tech layoffs. And all right, so let me just my camera wasn't working. I had to like deactivate it or close out the software and then, reactivate it and then deactivate it to get it working because it was like in this frozen screen state. All right, that's one thing. Two, all my plugs were unplugged. So that was another thing. I was like, why is my camera not working? It's because my kid came in here and plugged a lot of things. Bless the kids. They keep me on my toes. So this is, and what I was saying before I even started this stream was, get ready, be ready so you don't have to get ready, kind of thing, right? And this is the whole entire theme of this whole office hours today. So like I'm definitely gonna be opening up for questions if you guys come up and come through. And as you know, I'm commencing again. This is taking a whole week off of office hours and coming back to give you guys some, a recharge, Ronald. And see, right now, I see a little glitch. It's a glitch in the system. I don't know what's going on. I need to update my software or something. Been gone for a week. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So yeah, get ready, be ready so you don't have to get ready. And hopefully this stream doesn't, oh man, it's already acted up. Oh, hopefully it doesn't do bad. Hopefully the audio comes through clear and the picture is just completely trash. Just the audio alone. Hopefully that is clear because the first, it seems like 7 minutes or maybe the 2 minutes that was like live, it was like completely not saying nothing. So, oh my gosh. Whew. All right. So I kind of want to discuss this whole tech layoff thing and how some people are looking at it. Is it still a valuable option to go towards tech right now? And I kind of like discuss this a little bit, but I'm going a little bit depth like a business standpoint, like looking at businesses and where they're looking at. I probably even pull up some financial statements. They see why they're doing these things and are they actually making a profit or increasing their margins by having these layoffs, right? I might actually look into that. So yeah, and so just give it a little gist. And what I think is happening is businesses are doing these tech layoffs strictly from a business standpoint. We have, increased inflation and increase of interest rates and all these different things. Things are more expensive from a consumer standpoint. And there's a drop in revenue. So in order to essentially, oh man, 1 second. All right. Hopefully the audio is still coming through. I'm listening through. All right. So the audio's froze, but I'm gonna still continue on. Let's see. Deactivate. All right. Deactivate. Ah, jeez. So like the camera just completely just came out. So I don't even know what I'm gonna do in this particular moment because either I had to add the camera back in. Ah, all right. So this is what I'm gonna do. I am just gonna go. and just show this screen. This is going to be the screen I'm going to be playing off of. And so you guys can just see something. All right. All right. Can't see my face. Hopefully I can get it fixed as I'm doing this live stream. But yeah. All right. So, all right. So there was a video I just watched a couple of days, actually a day ago. And let me see if I can pull that up right here. So yeah, Bukala. So Bukala was interviewing one of the people who was affected by the tech layoffs. Not specifically Meta, but Microsoft. I think she was like a program manager or something like that. And and I definitely saw the standpoint from where the layoffs came from her standpoint, and because it was pretty much the same standpoint that I had as well, is that reducing the revenue from the company, like things are getting more expensive, inflation, all these other things, and there's a reducing consumer spending. So Google's revenues are dropping. So in order to keep those margins and those profit margins going, they have to let go in areas that they can essentially liquidate faster to make sure those margins are right. And the fastest ways to do that is layoffs. So, and as you can see in this particular chart, saying that how during the time of 20 and 2021, like essentially there was like no tech layoffs, or it was very minimal compared to where it is now right now, because during that time, Google and all those other tech companies had really high revenues and they were doing really great, and they needed to ensure that they keep that drive going. So they had a lot of hiring during that time. So they made it where it was plausible and make sure that the business would like increase their revenue and also increase their profit margins and stuff, so they can keep up with the consumer demand and all these other things. So multiple projects were came about, and more people came about to actually get onto these projects, and a lot of hiring was happening during this time. So yeah, so increasing revenue, oh, that's really great. But now we're in this particular state of economy where inflation and all these other things happen. And I want to see if I can actually pull up like a Google financial report or something like that. Financial report. All right, so while I'm looking for this financial report, let's see what's going on here. All right, so can't see my face, but I'm gonna show you just some quick metrics, right? It's been a while since I actually talked or even went into like financial reports. But the biggest things I want you to look at is the margins. The margins and all that stuff is really important to me. So like these pieces. So gross margin, operating margins, pre-tax margins. So great. Net margins. That's the most important margin of it all. So like net profit and all these things. So I'm trying to think. For gross margins, it's like gross margin is the revenue minus possibly like sell operating. No, gross margins is the cost, the revenue minus the cost of goods. So pretty much it's like 50%, right? Great margins. Fantastic. Whenever I see a company in two digits, that's fantastic. Operating margins is like costs of having your employees, and costs of other things like debts and all that stuff. Like you need to use these things to operate the company. So pretty much a little bit under half of that, which is still pretty fantastic. It's like 22, 25%. Now we get into like pre-tax. So essentially you're paying nothing. Well, this is pre-tax. Pre-tax, I guess I'm trying to I don't this is a new one for me, so I don't even know too much about that, but I mean it's a small drop in the bucket. All right, so net profit. So this one is in regards to probably more than likely before it gets taxed. That's typically what net profit is before it gets taxed, because they have this piece right here. I think it's like equity equity before taxes or something like that. I forgot what it stands for. Let's look it up. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So, all right, so that's that. I want to say that this is what that is, which is 21% gross uh, net profit is really fantastic for a business. It's like you don't really see that too much in a lot of businesses, but in tech industry, that's pretty much the norm. So that's fantastic. I want to say these are percentages, but I'm not exactly sure. I have to see. I haven't really did the Wall Street journals, but as you can see, those things are really great, fantastic. And let's actually look into like the revenues. Let's see, cash flow. So this is the money after all those expenses and stuff like that. This is the extra cash flow they're getting, 16 billion. So actually, I invest in Google from an index standpoint, but I think recently I did some research on this, and I have to look back way back into my like notes. I don't want to pull that up, but essentially, this is really great. Really fair taxes, 16 billion. They're not losing any money. They're making money in December, like the towards the end of like December 2022. Fantastic. Now, or like now looking into like the first quarter and all these other things, I don't know. I haven't kept up with it. But for the most part, all these numbers look great. Doesn't seem like the company is struggling, but they have some hits from a stock standpoint, and they went a little bit down. And let's see, from the last 3 months, yeah, it's been 3 months in a quarter. So first there was that here, and then now they're 100. So the very beginning of January, they essentially went up. So it doesn't seem like a big problem to me, but I mean, they're, I guess, like to keep investors happy and stuff like that. And this is probably going into like the financial reports and stuff like that. Is that, hey, are we actually wasting money on these little side projects or something? How can we reduce that to keep the investors happy, saying that, hey, we're doing everything possible to make sure our profit margins continue as they are, staying within a certain range that make the investors happy. So the best way they can do that is get rid of things that they feel that is not going to bring them value in the long term, or to, yeah, pretty much not getting value in the long term. And for the most part, I mean, they did that. They started doing that, and as you can see, this probably is just a result of, from starting out at $88 per share to $100 per share. That's almost like $20 there and per share, a gain from the initial beginning of this year. But I mean, there was using that narrative because at first people were afraid of all the things that are happening with reduced customer spending and all these other things. But to keep the investors happy, they had to get through these things. And that's what I'm kind of like coming from like a tech standpoint. So tech and bit from, well, actually not from a tech standpoint, from a business standpoint. So I like to keep track of these things, and I look at the business in regards to like their profit margins and see how they're doing and what they're leading to, because pretty much they'll tell a story within their financial report what they're going to be doing in the near future. So they pretty much setting you up exactly what probably needs to be done. And I think the more people who get more familiar with like reading these financial reports just from a employee standpoint, is going to help them better make better decisions on what they're going to do next. So never really get caught off guard on what's going to happen next, because I mean the financial reports, they don't lie. They can't lie on those things. Those are the things that share with like publicly, because when you have an IP, you have to publicly share your profits, your revenues, and all your details of how you're making money and are you profitable, kind of thing. So yeah, and that's just one company. Like let's look at Microsoft, and this is like with the one YouTube video with Bukala, and she was interviewing the person who was a program manager there. All right, last 3 months, boom, keeping the shell, keeping the investors happy. They start laying off people, and just to keep them happy. But in the last, year, they've been doing great. So all the things that are happening in regards to what's happening with this is like I said, is all to keep investors happy. And let me see if I can actually get into some like points on some things and see, because Microsoft, Google, they're really strong companies in regards to their financial fundamentals. They're ultimately making money. Um, I wish I had the same thing. Let's see. Okay, trying to find all that awesome information that I had like there. All right, so boom, I think this is it. All right, so cash flow looking great. So capital expenditures, not so great. But as you can see on this right hand side, profit margins, operating costs, pre-tax margins, net margins, like it's fantastic. And if these are percentages, it's just amazing. It's like all this is to say it's gonna come back. A lot of things gonna come back with Microsoft. A lot of things gonna come back with Google. A lot of things gonna come back with Amazon. And to say that the layoffs are kind of like deterring you from entering into the tech career is, I don't think is like a valid reason, because I mean, yeah, these are big companies, but other companies are hiring from like mid-level to small startups and so on. It's like people are still hiring. Startups might have a bigger issue with like, getting some cash flow, because a lot of things happen with startups and they usually try to get money cheaply, right? And it's not really easy to get cheap money during this time. Unless you're fundraising, you get angel investors and all these other things. You're not gonna get any cheap money from a bank or for like any like small business possibly. You might get some, but you're not gonna get a great rate for it. And your return, I mean, it could be great because I mean, I don't know, depending on what you're working in tech, you can possibly, get where you need to be and get those double digits, because I mean, interest rate for a business might be a little bit lower than some other, residential things that could be like 8% or 9% depending on your credit score or something like that. So, keeping those things in mind is like, and keeping those things in mind when you're looking for a job. Like I look at every single job that I go to. I actually look at their financial fundamentals. There's one job that I didn't really see the financial. I somewhat saw the financial fundamentals, but it was like that's one thing I was looking at, and it also determines whether or not I will stay long for a particular job because of, do they do their company actually make fundamentally sound decisions. And I think it's really important when you're looking at a company. It's probably one of the factors that you should look at for a company. And actually, I'm going to probably even include that. uh, now I'm thinking about it, is like I look at these financials and make sure, hey, if I'm going into a company, I'm getting stock options, restricted units, and all these other things. Is it gonna make sense financially sense to, if I'm gonna get these options and get these restricted stock units at a much cheaper price, or get them invested if I stay for so long? Would it make sense if it's actually going up during that time and I get my stock units and I can sell them off at a certain period of time? It's like those are the things that you look into, because those are the things that could be included into your compensation, right? So you want to like take that into mind of, going to a company. So this all to say is, the fundamentals, learning how to read a balance sheet, learning how to read a income statement, all these other things. Those are really important parts of, getting into tech. And from like I'm saying, even though they having a huge amount of layoffs during this time, and they are, it is is okay. It's okay, and it's gonna bounce back. It's gonna bounce back fantastic. And those aren't the only companies that are hiring out here. So keep trucking on. All right. Now I'm really gonna try to fix my stuff. This is so bad. Like I don't even know what happened to my webcam. It's so bad. I am highly upset. But we're gonna figure this out. All right, here we go. All right. Now, now, in the midst of all these tech layouts, what do you do? Depending on where you at, I've seen plenty of YouTubers, and either they get their offer rescinded, or they couldn't get a job right after college during these layoffs when they was just graduated college, and now they're trying to figure out how what I'm supposed to do in this situation. So I can relate to this, right? I can highly relate to this. I actually graduated with a mechanical engineering degree, right? A mechanical engineering degree. And the only thing I ultimately wanted to do after my college career was travel, but do that with mechanical engineering. And the only way I can possibly do that from what I've seen and what other people have done is do consulting. So there was probably just a few companies out there that was doing consulting during that time for mechanical engineering, and I didn't have a really big network in the consulting field. I had a decent network in like maybe some major companies like Procter and Gamble. I could have used that connect, but that would be like stationary there, right? It's just staying there. So I didn't see that as a viable option right away, and I didn't want to do that. So I was like, I think I did Kellogg Brown and Rice, KBR. I applied to them. Didn't get the offer. I didn't get no job. I didn't get a response back. So kept going. Tried to do something in the realms you know, of getting another consulting job, or somewhere that was just new and fresh, like something outside of Florida, because I was, originally from Florida. I was like, let me do that. Let me just get something out of Florida and let me try that. I could have got an offer, but I didn't stay long enough for the interview because I had to catch a flight to take an exam. It was, it could have been that kind of situation because they was really feeling me for one company. So didn't get an offer, and I could have been possibly in Michigan somewhere, like after college. So actually, I wasn't really feeling the company because when I was looking in the office, it just felt so dreary. So if I would have got the offer, I probably would have been very, very drained in that particular office space because it was just like fluorescent lighting and a cubicle. It just seemed like the typical office place that you can possibly think of, just straight cubicle, draining light that wasn't great, no windows. It was just bad. I couldn't even see myself there. So I'm actually glad they didn't call me back because I was looking in their space and I was like, how can someone find this enjoyable? And like, I don't know, they couldn't do it. I didn't see it. So yeah, so I didn't get a job at all in mechanical engineering after college. So instead, I got a job and doing something else, right? And this might be some viable option, right? But it was all in a matter of continuing to push the momentum, right? I ultimately got a chance to travel. I was doing trucking and doing these things during that time. But at the same time, realized after college, I knew I wanted to do software because I love software during there. I was like, yo, how can I make this, thing possible for me? So I was like teaching myself. I was over the road doing things, traveling, seeing this, beautiful nation called United States of America, seeing all the great people interacting and all this other stuff. And I saw a way to get into it. And ultimately, started to network, doing those things and making projects and doing those things. And I thought that was, a very valuable option for me. And it was. Like, it started to pay off. I started getting little small contracts, start networking with people, and just start spreading my name around. Hey, this guy is available for doing this, this, and that. Start working with like some family of mine and who had a relative who was also in tech. I was like, all right, cool. Got in there, spoke with him. He actually hooked me up with my biggest contract to this day that I had with a startup company. And it was for 6 months. I was like, boom. And it was like in my head, and this is my thing behind why I wanted to travel and do consulting. In my head, it's like I will be getting 6 months contracts and stuff like that, doing my consulting work, and I only need to work 6 months out the year. Like that's still in my head to this day. I only need to work 6 months out the year. And that was the first like realization to what I wanted to do. So essentially manifesting exactly what I wanted to get done. And I saw it there. It's like boom, 6 months contract, and I'm making good money where I can actually, pay my bills and do all these other things. But I'm saving it all to make it where I can go to the next thing. So now, like, I'm still, doing that thing and, working towards that, and actually got a full-time software engineer job where now I'm working fully remote doing these things. And now I can pretty much essentially be anywhere I want to be in the United States if I ultimately want to. And I like that idea. I like that very much. But so as you can see, like the pretty much the whole gist of the story is like continue to be like have some viable goal towards the end of it all and continue to move towards that goal. And regardless of what's happening and what everyone else is telling you, is you see where it's going to take you at the end of the day. No one's going to give you a cheap job. The only person who's going to give you a cheap job is yourself. And if you do that, then if it's not working out for you, then it's because you accept that. So don't accept anything that's coming your way that you feel like it's not going to be a viable thing that's going to put you in the light of where you want to be at ultimately. And in spite of all these things that was happening, all the negativity, you can still do something positive to push yourself in where you need to be. And yeah, uh, yeah, pretty much, yeah. Don't quit. Like 20,000 layoffs, 20,000 people getting laid off. It's like, don't do that. It's like, don't even make that a reason why you say, oh, is it still something viable in the next 2 year? Is it going to be viable for other people? Oh, AI, which is another topic I should bring up as well. Halfway through this, AI is going to take my job. You're going to take our jobs. And that's a thought of people's minds as well. And I can tell you this, right? One thing that they said was going to take our jobs for sure is like low code stuff. And I think this was probably roughly around like 10 years ago. Yeah, just after I graduated college. It's like, oh, you got these low code, no code solution things, that's gonna be super viable. Like we ain't gonna need developers no more. Who? What's a developer? What? I can essentially build a whole application without a developer building anything for me. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Even to this day, Salesforce are doing, really great things in regards to that, right? Making low code, no code solutions so that pretty much admins can do things from I guess, like a developer standpoint. But, the time to implement and the roadmap to fully make things like fully no code, low code, that is, I don't, it is too far in the future. To be honest, the if you look at some of these solutions, like one of the solutions is like, for instance, HTTP call outs and stuff, which is a beta test thing that's coming out, and I think it's very much viable to do in this last in the next like year. If someone's really focusing on doing that, they can definitely do it. But there's so many different scenarios where you need to do different things. I think it was like graph, was it? Let me see. It's a graph API. No, it wasn't that. It was graph API. Graph. I think it's graph API. No, it's one of those particular querying API resting um technologies that allow you to update records like constantly asynchronously. And it was a thing that was built for sales, no, actually for Facebook. I think they were developing something with Facebook because one of the business reasons behind that is like, loading the page constantly, and loading, multiple fees at a constant rate, and making it where it's consistent without breaking, right? So they built out this tool that allowed you to do that, and the infinite scroll was like the biggest thing to Facebook, and probably also the the downfall of Facebook in a sense, right? Because you can infinitely stroll up and just see numerous amount of data nonstop. It's like the infinite stroll. I hate it so much, but essentially it works very effectively, right? You strolling up, and your data is just automatically loading, and that was like what's working behind that is this graph API. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering it so badly. Let's see, REST API, um, better than REST API, better than REST API. Yeah, graph QL. There it is widely tagged as better REST because it represents a better way of API building APIs. So this GraphQL, and the history behind it. What's the history behind it? But yeah, just to say this, right? So HTTP calls and stuff like that, you can make that a local solution. But there's so many different case scenario where data needs to be queried at a certain rate, or things need to be chopped up so you can continuously get data, and there might be like something timed out at some point, and you need to tell the system to say, all right, you know load once you get to this point, something like that. It's like there's so many scenarios where you need to load data, and I don't think there's going to be a low code solution for a while to fit all the different scenarios to load data for an application properly where it runs super smoothly. There's always going to be some custom pieces to that. And what I'm saying in regards to that is that custom code is still going to be needed, regardless. Technology is developing, but these low code, no code solutions are just going to be a essentially like a band-aid until you need to build something more complex and robust and more efficient, proficient, and performant. And yeah, and it's like going into a little bit of AI, right? But actually, before I go into AI, so a lot of people said during that time that low code, no code solution, these builders and these platforms and stuff like that is going to essentially take out developers. I mean, the developers are, getting laid off, but they're not getting taken out. They're still here. They're still, working. They're doing the things that need to get done. Um, yeah. All right. My camera's still not back on. This is so bad. Let me see if I can get it back on. No, it does not like me. It does not like me. All right, checking the chat because I can rant on for days. So let me know in the chat if you have any questions because I'm just rambling on. I can ramble on for days. I see the two in here, but all right. So yeah, no code, low code. You have business reasons and all this stuff. All right, now let's go into AI, right? Which is the hottest topic of probably in the next 2 or 5 years. I don't know. Whenever something falls off. How long what was crypto? How long crypto ran? That was like a hot topic. Maybe a good year or two during the pandemic. People were getting really excited about crypto, and then people were learning about pump and dumps and all that stuff, and learning that crypto is not really a viable asset and it's just a non-active or non-producing asset. It's super speculative. So yeah. All right, let's get into AI. So the next hottest topic in the tech, which is top of the charts. Now let's talk about that. So you already have Chat GPT, you have Dolly, you have Mid Journey, you got all these different things and stuff like that. All right, so they were saying for the longest like Mid Journey or something, and all these other auto generative AI tools are going to essentially take out designers. Designers are not going to be needed at all fully. And I wish I would have watched this one video before I actually talked about it because I wanted to see from like a designer standpoint what they thought about AI taking over their job. And let me see if I can pull up like this YouTube channel. All right, Demi Lee, I want to say her name is. All right, so yeah, it is. Oh, Demi Lee. So all right, she did a video recently that I wanted to watch, and I think she changed the thumbnail. So she changed the thumbnail. It was like architects versus AI. So she's an architect, right? She build out buildings, design out building plans, and you know do that awesome stuff. There's I want to say there's like two different types of architects, like interior, and then you also had the outside exterior stuff. I want to say she's like the outside exterior stuff, right? People go to like internal interior design when they're doing architecture sometimes, but she's more of like outside and like getting the feel and the concept of the lands and forming this building with the land. So I wish I would watch that video, but I'm gonna probably watch it after this video, and I'm gonna probably even come to a hypothesis of this whole entire video. And for the most part, is that, and from my own experience dealing with AI, is that it is gonna miss out on the most smallest of nuances of things. AI is not gonna get it perfect. It might do a lot of heavy lifting, but it's not gonna get it perfect. The only way you can get even possibly close to perfect if someone is like really great at their craft, right? They really understand where a customer or a user is coming from, and they fit that need, and then boom, it's like you feel that. It's like when if you ever and this is like going to my and the reason why I was off for the last week. If you ever went to like a fancy restaurant, and I've been to like those high dining fancy restaurants this past week, pretty much like almost every day of the week this past week. And then I went to just like a, a Red Lobster or a Dave and Buster's or something like that. Once you have the experience of someone catering to your needs from that perspective of fine dining and like their craft of that thing that they're really, really great at. When you go to these other mediocre things, like you're like, yo, that is not how it's supposed to be made. That's not how it is done. And that's how I kind of see as AI. AI is like this person who works at Dave and Buster's. They might make the presentation. Well, not the person that works at Dave and Buster, a cook that works at Dave and Buster's. They know how to, put out a good majority of the things and make it look great and pictured and all this stuff. But the execution of it is not great. Like I had some Korean ribs, like saucy, super saucy. One thing. So all right, I mean, sauce is not that bad. You can scrape off the sauce. Not big of issue. Cool. But then the cook of the ribs, like there was no thought of, when you put it on the grill, hey, just put it on the grill. That's what AI says. Just put it on the grill, let it char up and get to this certain texture or something like that. All right, boom. That's all you got to do. And then put some sauce on it, put some, scallions on it, make it presentable. Boom. They're going to be eating with their eyes anyway. They're going to think this is looking great. This is fantastic. But they miss out on the small nuances of what make this protein such a great protein. So when I'm eating the ribs, it's crunchy. It looks great, but it's crunchy. It feels like overcooked in some parts. And I'm like, dang, after having this fine dining experience, someone, you know, fully catering to my needs, and they know exactly how to execute this protein, this dish. I don't know how to go back to a Red Lobster or Dave and Buster's for ribs or anything like that. I can't go back. I'll save my money to get exactly what I ultimately want. And yeah, and and that's like kind of like merging in with like the low code no code situation, right? Low code no code solutions, they get you there, but then you're like, oh, I'm clunking around, like what the heck is going on? Like I'm trying to do it how this low code situation, but there's some robustness there that I need. There's a this wasn't like executed fully, and that's where the custom code pieces come in, and someone who knows what they're doing with custom code, fit that need, and you're like, wow, this was an awesome experience. Like I don't know how to go back from anything else. Like I wish I would have went custom this whole entire way. I wish I would have went fine dining this whole entire way. I would have spent the money just to go straight there, and rather than waste my time to do this low cost situation, right? Yeah, I might get a lot of the Salesforce people who are listening to my podcast, my office hours, are like, "What are you talking about, man? We supposed to be doing low code all the time, man. Try to do that as much as possible." And they're right. I mean, there's some situations where you can do low code, right? Very, you can definitely it will fit your needs and fit it directly. You try to go with that as much as possible. But there's some situations, there's certain experiences you can't fully fulfill with low code, no code. And same thing with AI. It's like we're hoping that this tool is gonna essentially do the grunt work for you as much as possible, and that grunt work is gonna feel like, all right, what I need to add here, or all right, let me fix this piece. Like you essentially, you're going back and rearranging it to your needs. And I kind of had this same experience when I was writing out some test classes with ChatGPT. I feel like I was super detailed in my, in my prompts, because essentially when you're working with ChatGPT, you tell them this, and that, and boom. And maybe I'm not gonna like rule out AI entirely yet, but I'm still gonna try to use the tool to see how you can use it better, right? And that's essentially what you always have to do as a engineer. How can this tool essentially still fulfill your needs? You try to figure out if it's going to fulfill your needs. Local situations are still needed, and it would reduce the amount of time for like maintenance if you implement those solutions in that thing. But sometimes it can be, like I said, very cumbersome. So I don't know if there'll ever be another time where you can, a situation where you can just go to David Buster's and you think you can eat. No, I'm just gonna play games. The games are there, are gonna, fulfill what I need to do. I'm not gonna eat there again. Because I already had this awesome experience, and I would rather save my money to get exactly what I want to have that experience. So yeah, um, yeah, shoot, coming up on almost an hour, but I came late, so I'm gonna stay here a little bit longer. I'm gonna check the chats and see what's happening in the chats. All right, cool, cool, cool. All right, no one's saying nothing. You guys don't got no questions? Let me know if you got questions about this topic of, tech. Is tech is still a valuable option given all these tech layouts? And another thing too is like the narrative. Hey, how's it going, Tamara? Hey, you the OG. I'm telling you, you the OG. You stay coming to the office hours. I appreciate you. All right, so, oh yeah, adult supervision. Okay, okay. I see you. I see you. I see you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming through. So yeah. All right. So yeah, going back to this, right? Man, it's the layoffs. The layoffs are, oh, this is the point I wanted to bring up. So AI, right? So it's like, oh yeah, the reason why a lot of people are getting laid off is because AI is just taking our jobs. They gotta take our jobs, but that's not really the case. AI is so fennel right now, right? If there wasn't a limiter or something like that on it, because it's definitely be limited, it would have been, wreaking havoc. People have been using it and forever, like horrible uses. But AI is, let's see, AI is AI taking taking over jobs. Ooh, so, mm, so because I was like, into mechanical engineering and all these other stuff, and learning about mechanical engineering things and history of of things that revolutionized the the civilization. One of the biggest things, and I think it was during the mass production of cars and stuff. During that time, being before the mass production of cars, a lot of people were like making these cars from hand, and they're producing these things by hand, and like working with the hands with it. So a lot of people were in the manufacturing jobs. Manufacturing careers were huge and big. People were making a lot of money in manufacturing. So when it came about, when mass production of cars and the automation and the assembly of those things, people got laid off. People got laid off. And manufacturing jobs haven't been back since. There's still manufacturing jobs, but it's just like only the little small pieces that a human can like, get in there to fit this particular piece that is going to function perfectly only if like a human fits it in there, right? But I mean, it's still a mass reduction of manufacturing jobs out there that people are actually doing that, because a good majority of those things are automated from the assembly lines and the robots and all that stuff. So instead of people looking at how how they can like come out of this right better, there was like, well, I guess I don't have a job no more because manufacturing was the only thing that I was really great at. And that's, I think, is ultimately the wrong mindset behind it. And I think the right mindset set behind it is, all right, how can I get into robotics so I can build these systems? How can I get into robotics so I can make these systems more efficient? And then essentially, come up with this industry and learn. So essentially adapting, right? And that's what I'm all about. Adapting to where things are and adapting to where this, tech community, the tech is going to. So, blockchain, that was a really big topic with, in the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic. But now we're talking about AI. And all right, like what makes an idea or a technology or a thing that's gonna not fade? There's probably a multitude of things to make it where it's not gonna fade. Just like the whole mass production of cars, because it increased the performance of outputting more cars to people that didn't have cars during that time, and things became cheaper because you know instead of using hard steel, they start using aluminum and start using fiberglass. They start using plastic and all this stuff. So now your car is getting lighter and lighter, it's getting more efficient, and you're using much smarter decisions in regards to the material when you're building it. So is AI have it like a has a momentum to essentially do that? And that's the question. It's like, can AI essentially really take over tech jobs? All right, all right. Oh yeah, I have a so rather thank you for the time and knowledge. All right, yeah. Thank you, adult supervision. So, and it's really good. Like AI is really good at looking at a whole bunch of data, crunching it down, and trying to put it into like pieces that make sense based off of how we, train it, right? But see, based off of the data that you provide for the AI system to run on, it's going to have some slight biases and going to have some slight issues there to make the right decision. It might not even have the little small nuances that make it where, boom, I like this was amazing. Like you fulfilled that need like clearly. And I'm really trying to figure out like what does AI actually do great where it's like flawless. It doesn't do great with spell check. Is that AI? I gotta think about that. It's like, I mean, I have to think about that. Sometimes it doesn't do right when text to speech, and that probably goes into, all right, can it actually pick my intonation, or am I saying the word properly, or can it predict what word that I'm really trying to say properly and say it to the prompt? Because some might be listening to this later on, and they might be speaking a different language, and they want to put on the captions in order to see what I'm listening to, right? And I find it sometimes is it might misconstrue some things there too. So it's not even perfect there. I'm trying to think because like I've looked at a one business that a long time ago that I was thinking about doing was doing transcriptions and stuff, like pretty much importing the audio MP3 into this AWS system to translate the text and spit it out. So I was looking into that, but you still have to do some work there. You have to make sure add it in a certain format. It wasn't able to add in a certain format, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that you have to go behind and get it there. So that's what I'm saying. It's like I'm trying to still figure out where does AI does things flawlessly, like with no issues, without no intervention. They just got the data and they're just learning. The AI system just learning exactly what it needs to do to get where it needs to be and figure out the thing based off of some kind of prompt that is given to them, and would just go ahead and just like roll with it and do a fantastic job. Still trying to figure that out because this is still some work. It's still work there, and that's what I'm saying is like I don't even think AI can be fully take over like a software engineering job. I don't think that's possible. It's gonna take a long time. Like I'm talking about Terminator, long time. Like I don't from looking at what I've seen so far, we're far from Terminator stuff. Even with like the sentient stuff that's going on with some of the Google stuff that I've been hearing about, it's it's still far away. I don't see it. I don't see it in the next 5 years. I don't see it in the next 10 years. It's still in its infancy state. Still needs to be some stuff done. So let's see. And sorry you guys can't see my face. I don't have it. I had technical difficulties this whole stream. I had technical difficulties. I'm telling you. It's like my camera just like completely froze out at the very beginning. Like it was working, and then I saw it's like it's glitching. It's like it's about to do something, and just completely went out. I was like, all right, forget it. No camera. I'm just gonna show my screen. Still can't get it back up unless I probably close out my stream. I probably got to do some kind of update driver thing. But so far, I pretty much this is pretty much probably gonna be the last bit of the stream. But just to wrap everything up, so tech layoffs definitely affected by the major part is by business. So business is trying to keep investors happy. I think that full heartedly. It's like we're in this economical state and things are not looking good from a consumer standpoint. So revenues drop, and they're trying to keep those margins up, to keep the investors happy. So they stock continues to go up, and you're doing great, right? It's just the nature of the matter. It's just business, okay? Two, low code, no code. As you can see, it's not going to take over. It didn't take over 10 years ago. Still hasn't taken over yet. There's still business reasons for a developer always on a job. A company that says that they don't need a custom developer, their 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 business process is not that complex. They don't need a custom developer for their particular situation, and it's very simple and anyone can do it essentially. All right. Three, AI. AI still in its infancy, is not taking over no jobs, and there's so many problems with it. Um, and the nuances that it can't completely get to, is not going to get to that full solution. I don't even think it's getting to the half solution at some points. So yeah, it's still a valuable tool. Still a valuable tool though. Ideals, like generating ideals. That's what it's good for. Probably doing some pieces of the framework, laying out it, but to give it information where it needs to just build everything and flawlessly, to where customers need it, it's not taking over that at this present moment. So yeah. But other than that, let me know if you guys like this stream. And tomorrow we'll be doing the building stuff series. And more likely you'll be going over um some business, some feedback that I got from my app, because I currently got my app into beta testing, and it's pretty much the deal analysis that I've been working on for the last couple of months. And I've been working on it for myself, using it for myself. It's been doing great stuff for me personally, and I want to see if it's going to do great stuff for other people. So I actually got some friends, some relatives to try it out. So far, got some people checking it out, and I got some feedback, and I'm going to implement that feedback live in tomorrow's live stream for building stuff. So look out for that, and hope you guys do well. Hope you guys don't feel discouraged with all this tech layoff stuff, and you see the end goal that you ultimately want to be at the end of the day when you want to do this tech career. And also, anytime possible, answer me, like ask me questions anytime on my Instagram, on this video, which would be a great place too. If you have any questions in regards to tech layoffs, ask questions in the comments below. But wherever you guys are in the world, have a good night, have a good afternoon, have a good morning. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. And thank you, Tamara and Adult Supervision. You guys are awesome. So see you guys next time. Peace.